Hi everyone. So Donald Trump yesterday met with the survivors of the Parkland shooting in Florida at the school where 17 children sadly lost their lives last week. You may have seen this picture, which was really shocking. Um, why he needs people to write a note with how to react and how to act sympathetic and empathic towards victims of a horrible crime, I will never know. I mean, that should come naturally, surely. Um, but anyway, what can you expect? Um, he's been on Twitter today announcing his policies, as every leader does. I mean, I don't think it's a policy now in America unless it goes on social media. But he said this: history shows the school shooting lasts, on average, 3 minutes. It takes police and first responders approximately 5 to 8 minutes to get to the site of the crime. Highly trained, gun adept teachers, coaches would solve the problem instantly before police arrive. Great deterrent. If a potential sicko shooter knows that a school has a large number of very weapons talented teachers. Who taught this guy English? Very weapons talented teachers and others who will be instantly shooting. The sicko will never attack that school. Cowards won't go there. Problem solved. Must be offensive. Defense alone won't work. Um, the deterrent, the deterrent narrative is quite an interesting one because I couldn't find any stats today when I looked, but I am assuming that if criminals know that a shop, for instance, or a convenience store owner carries a gun, I wonder how much less that shop is actually targeted by criminals. That's going to be an interesting one. I haven't seen any statistics on that, but it would be interesting to see whether there was a case for that to be made. In all fairness to him, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible here, which is extremely difficult for me. So, full disclosure, I'm going to tell you why that's difficult. In 2008, I visited a friend in America and I stopped with him I was planning on stopping with him for 3 months. It was at exactly the time when Barack Obama won his first term. Now, you may remember this was a few months after the financial crash. Now, my friend had bought his house the year previous, about 18 months before. As a result of the financial crash, he ended up with a mortgage of $160,000 plus on a house that was now worth less than $70,000. He was struggling for work. He was extremely depressed. We didn't know that at the time because he hid it very well. And one night he got drunk and shot himself in the head with a .357 Magnum and a hollow point bullet. He was lying in bed next to his wife. His wife was obviously extremely distraught. I tried to help as much as possible. She went to visit friends and family, and I actually stopped in the house for a week or so and basically got things back to normal for her for when she returned. I had to clean up the mess. I didn't have to, I offered to be honest. I wanted to help out as much as possible, but I had to pick up pieces of my friend's brain matter and skull off the curtains behind him where he shot himself. And I think whenever I hear people talk about guns in America, I always think, have you gone through anything like I've gone through? Have you gone through any trauma like that at all? Because my bet is, if you had, your views on guns would be very, very different. So I wanted to give full disclosure there. Listen, I am biased when it comes to this. I try and be as objective as possible in my videos, as you know. But with this, I am biased. But I will try and be objective and give Trump a chance and give his talking points a chance. So that's an interesting one, the deterrent. Now, the problem is, as this shows, untrained gun users prove ineffective at self-defense. Now, Donald Trump is saying they would get training and it would be 20%, and obviously people, it would be the most accurate one. My first thought to that is, has anybody asked the teachers? Of the teachers' unions, or I mean, is there a teachers' union now actually in America? You don't seem to have any unions. But has anybody asked the teachers? To be honest, I think the teachers have to deal with enough. They already don't get paid enough, and they have to deal with classrooms of 50 plus children. So I'm not sure making them the first line of defence would be the best option, to be honest. And next is, if it does take 8 minutes on average for a policeman to arrive, that means that's 8 minutes of armed teachers chasing an assailant throughout school grounds. Now, what's going to happen when the police turn up in that chaos? I can almost guarantee you, if this happens and a circumstance like that arises, a teacher's going to get shot by a copper. It's almost guaranteed. Police in America, they turn up and they get their guns out. I've seen it myself. They get their guns out. It's the first thing that they do, no matter what the circumstance. And a lot of them have got itchy trigger fingers, and they will ask questions later. All they've got to do is say, I felt my life was in danger, and no matter what happens, they're not going to get prosecuted. So that's something that we need to really look at and just think about before we instantly start giving teachers guns. And I can't believe we're talking about this, to be honest. I found this quote by a guy in Des Moines, a police spokesman in Des Moines. I think that's how you pronounce it, Des Moines, or is it Des Moines? I can never remember. Shooting targets on a range is one thing, he says. You can put all your shots on a dot when you control the situation and can decide when to fire, said Sergeant Jason Halifax, a Des Moines, I'm assuming it's Des Moines, a Des Moines police spokesman and a law enforcement firearms trainer. But when your adrenaline is pumping and your heart is beating faster, you're not going to shoot the same way as you do at the range, not without a lot of training. Now, I've seen this firsthand as well when I was in America. A couple of weeks before the incident, 2 dogs had got out and were running around the neighbourhood and had actually got hold of a neighbour's cat and killed it. The neighbour called the police. A policeman turned up, patrol officer, immediately drew his gun. Now, this was a police officer in his 50s. He'd obviously got decades of experience and some training. I'm not going to say he's highly trained, because when he pulled his gun out, the amount of shaking that he did was, I can only describe it as, I've seen people with epilepsy have a fit and shake less. And that's not hyperbole, that's the truth. His hand was shaking a good 12 inches. I can't believe I did that. His hand was shaking 12 inches. If one of the dogs had run at him, he would have missed. It would have been a miracle if he'd hit the dog. Now, this is a police officer. This is a police officer who's trained. That's his job, to be able to handle a gun. A teacher in that situation, guarding children, it's just going to be a recipe for disaster. Children are going to get shot by teachers. It's almost an accident waiting to happen. This is not looking good the more I actually look into it. Now, to be fair to Trump, he obviously was watching the news, or the fake news, which he says he doesn't watch, but he instantly found out that CNN and NBC had said Donald Trump had tweeted that he was going to give teachers guns. And he said this: I never said give teachers guns, like was stated on fake news, CNN and NBC. What I said was to look at the possibility of giving concealed guns to gun-adept teachers with military or special training experience. Only the best. 20% of teachers, so that's 1 in every 5, a lot, would now be able to immediately fire back if a savage sicko, savage, that's the President of the United States. If a savage sicko came to a school with bad intentions, highly trained teachers would also serve as a deterrent to the cowards that do this. Far more assets at much less cost than guards. Still thinking about money. A gun-free school is a magnet for bad people. Attacks would end. Again, I'm not sure about whether it would deter people. It might even put a target on the schools back in some of these deranged people's minds. You just don't know what's going through their head. So, I mean, what Donald Trump has said there really is corrected CNN with a distinction that it just has no difference. you can see he's talking about arming teachers. He's talking about giving teachers guns. So how he can come out with a tweet and say, I didn't say that, it's, well, you did. You know, you've not just said it, but you've also corrected yourself and said it in the correction. You know, you haven't said give teachers guns verbatim, but that's what you're talking about, Donald. I'm sorry. Now, to be fair to Donald Trump, he also said this, okay? I will be strongly pushing comprehensive background checks with an emphasis on mental health. Raise age to 21 and end sale of bump stocks. Congress is in a mood to finally do something on this issue. I hope. I strongly suggest you call your representative, whoever they are, in whatever state you're in, and tell them that is a step in the right direction. That might actually help. If you look at this chart, you can clearly see the states with the most strict gun laws in America are the states with the least gun deaths. That's statistics. That's proof. We've had, in the UK, one school shooting in our history. One. And we haven't had one since. We've never had another one. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why that is. Oh yeah, forgot about that. So yeah, Donald Trump, we know you're an idiot, but that's in the history of bad ideas, that's right up there with Wile E. Coyote when he strapped those skates on his feet and put an Acme rocket on his back and chased after the Roadrunner, and as we all know, it didn't work out too well for the coyote, that didn't. So yeah, that's covered guns. I honestly hope, I really do hope that there isn't another shooting, an incident like that, and this issue doesn't raise its head in such a way again as it did this time. The reality is there, because of the state of the gun laws in America and the fact that you haven't got the strict gun laws that the rest of the Western world has, these things are going to continue. And unless you take a step in the right direction with what Donald Trump has suggested in his other tweet, it's going to happen again, unfortunately, and more lives are going to be ruined.
And now, I don't know how I'm ever going to step foot on that place again, or go to a public park after school, or be walking anywhere. Me and my friends, we get scared when a car drives by. Anywhere. And I think I agree with Hunter and Huck and how we need to let ideas flow and get the problem solved. I don't understand. I turned 18 the day after. Woke up to the news that my best friend was gone. And I don't understand why I could still go in a store and buy a weapon of war, an AR. I was reading today that a person 20 years old walked into a store and bought an AR-15 in 5 minutes with an expired ID. How is it that easy to buy this type of weapon? How do we not stop this after Columbine, after Sandy Hook? I'm sitting with a mother that lost her son. It's still happening. In Australia, there was a shooting at a school in 1999. And, after that, they took a lot of ideas, they put legislation together, and they stopped it. Can anyone here guess how many shootings there have been in the schools since then in Australia? 0. We need to do something, and that's why we're here. So let's be strong for the fallen who don't have a voice to speak anymore. And let's never let this happen again. Please, please.
Powerful words. Please subscribe, please hit the bell, and please speak to your representative. Get them to do something about these gun laws. It shouldn't be like this. Till next time, take care.